Welcome back to the 2023 Tire Rack One Lap of America presented by Grassroots Motorsport Magazine. I'm Solomon. We got Brian on, and with us today we have Mark, John, and Mark. Gentlemen, please introduce yourselves and say hi and let us know what you're driving this year.
Go ahead, Mark.
Mark Menegay will be driving a 2023 Camaro ZL1 from Ankeny, Iowa.
And I'm MJ from Ankeny, Iowa, in the same car, obviously. And this will be my 9th one lap.
Wow, you're catching up there. And so we've had quite the influx of Iowa here over the past few days. So what is it about Iowa and the one lap? I mean, you guys need a decal. Iowa loves the one lap.
I honestly, I'll take a little tiny bit of credit, but when I joined up with Mark a few years ago, he's the one that really started spreading the word in central Iowa and just started piling on the people to do it. Maybe there was somebody else that did it before me, but I don't remember meeting them.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well,
I just ran people that always ask questions about the cars and stuff and explained at the event to them. And surprisingly, the very first year that I did it with MJ, Nick Haynes out of Ankeny decided to do it. I don't want to say last minute, but spur of the moment. And he was probably the first or the other team that started with us. And then from there, Scott Mattis was a co-driver with Nick Haynes. So now he has his own team. Stephen Fuller was, I don't know if Stephen Fuller was on his own or how he did it, but pretty much all the co-drivers had branched out and formed their own teams now.
Mm-hmm. So we were talking about sort of Mid-America Raceway, which is, I guess, is that the closest to you guys?
Raceway Park in the Midlands is the closest track we have, and it's 2 hours away.
Okay. Very good. So what is the car scene like sort of in Iowa? I mean, I don't know enough about it, and I'm just kind of curious. I mean, how you have RPM, you've got you got a few others around you, but what's the car scene like there? I mean, are there cars and coffee every weekend places? What's the deal?
You want this one, MJ? Go ahead.
They have cars and coffee each Saturday. It's fairly large. Mm-hmm. And, obviously, just like any place, there's a ton of people with some pretty cool cars. And we are fortunate in central Iowa to have many actual billionaires and some seed company owners show up with some holy cow rare Ferraris. And we've got a gentleman in town that was my understanding is he invented Roundup. And he has a collection. How many hundreds of cars, Mark? But it's hundreds and hundreds of cars. I'll leave his name off because he didn't ask to be on here. But it's just, we feel that it's, I actually have a Sunday driving group that I've started. And I'll just put out, it's not every single Sunday, but I'll just put out a message earlier in the month and say, hey, on this date, we're going to meet at this time here. And then we set a route and head off. And there's not a ton of traffic where we head out. And then we all stop for breakfast and come back a few hours later. It's pretty awesome. Mark and I just did one this morning.
That's pretty neat. And I suppose it's one of the neat things about the one lap and car culture in general. I mean, really, anywhere I've traveled around the globe or, and in the States, it's kind of neat to see the own little microcosms of car culture, but there are tons of similarities and there's a few differences, but overall, I think the people are generally the same, the ones that show up and the conversations are very, very similar. And that's really what the one lap embodies, I like to think over all these years. I mean, we have a very eclectic mix of vehicles as well as people that come from all over. And similar to what you're describing, no matter where you're coming from, you're pretty much used to the same experiences. So it's a very neat thing. And yeah, Brian, I think we've had some pretty crazy cars over the years. What are some of the ones that you remember?
Well, as for what we've used as a media vehicle, still hands down, the all-time favorite is Big Bertha our 2014 BMW M6 Grand Coupe.
Yeah.
I cried taking that back to the BMW plant here in South Carolina when I had to turn it in. That
He
was
did.
a sad day.
He was tempted to make a run for it. So what are you guys looking forward to the most this year? I mean, obviously, Mark, John, you're a veteran of many, many years, and Mark, you've been with us a few times now. So what are you looking forward to the most this year?
Go ahead.
Probably the tracks that we're going to be, well, obviously getting back together with everyone, first of all, seeing everyone, especially on Friday before we take off for the week. That's probably a highlight for me. And then obviously some of the tracks that we have on the schedule this year is another highlight. I have not been on Road Atlanta yet, so I'm looking forward to that one. But, Nelson Ledges, probably NCM, and then my favorite is ECR. So yeah.
Nice. What about you, Mark, John?
And this is lame because everybody says the same thing, but you get your microcosm of friends. You kind of hang out with the same 3, 4, 5 teams, through the week, and yeah, you get to say hi to everybody. But geez, oh criminy, you're experience something that it's like I'm stealing this line from a friend who did this with me before, but it's like a once in a lifetime experience that you get to do every single year.
Mm-hmm.
And you're sharing something with somebody this big group of men and women that's really special. And so I love seeing all the people, and I fortunately don't make a living racing cars. It does not pay the bills. And so at times it's really hard to dial back, trying to be so competitive. I mean, I guess our goal internally is, we love the guys from Iowa, but we want to finish first from the Iowa guys. And then after that, maybe in class. But you're not going to be some of the pro drivers that show up. They're just the talent. Holy cow.
The talent's pretty neat. But you bring up a good point. I mean, because it really is, while, you can intellectualize it and say, yeah, there are these very accomplished drivers who are fast in their own right, and the raw pace is pretty astounding, and they can extract the best performance out of that vehicle. There's a whole lot of unknowns. And as we've seen year in and year out, I mean, those that are favored to win, I mean, for goodness sakes, how many years was Catesby the favorite and just couldn't get it across the finish line for whatever reason until he finally did, and then I think he was very happy. But it really is anybody's game until the finish line, both mathematically and practically. There's so many unknowns. I mean, we've had cars fall prey and fall victim to flooding, to road hazards. I mean, the track driving is probably some of the safest stuff you can do. It's really getting to the tracks and all the stuff in between, which are the biggest unknowns. So how do you account for that, and sort of what's your philosophy to make it to the end?
I am very much, I love watching modified cars.
Yeah.
Love it. And please modify your car, everybody. But every modification that you do, you can just take it down another notch in reliability. Keep doing it, and you have less and less reliability. And so I am very much of the opinion that stock is the way to go. But again, I respect the modified cars, and I love it. I love watching them. It's fun. But holy cow, I mean, I've even spoken to Brock, and he's like, you just wait till day 3. See that car? It's going to go up in smoke,
Yeah.
And boy, he hits it. So I'm very much about stock and a very new vehicle. And I've never not finished the event. And we've only missed, Mark, when we lost a transmission in your car 2 years ago.
Yep.
Mark had it. We missed one event, and Mark, you can tell the story, but just one event, still finished the race. So
yeah, we DNF last year at Barber too with a broken wheel.
Okay.
So the last 2 years we've had one DNF in each.
Yep, and that's sort of the challenge, because the higher up in the standings you want to be, particularly at the get-go, the competition's really, really stiff. And, and it's a very, when you're at the pointy end of the field, you do have to kind of run that gamble between modifying the vehicle to really perform on track, but get to the finish line. I know the S2K guys in the past, and Robert Thorne. I mean, he started off, he won the event first time out in a stock GTR, and then bringing the S2000 out and the S2K, in years past. I mean, they're always crawling under that thing. They're always pulling it apart. Something's overheating, something's stressed, something's broken. And it's a very different experience when you're trying to play at that pointy end of the field. I think after speaking with some, some of the fun goes away. Our first interview this year was with Steve Loudon, and this year he's looking to have fun. He's been trying so long to get to that real pointy end of the field, and he got it, and now he's like, wait, I want to do this and have fun now. So there really is kind of something for everybody. But I agree with you. As far as reliability goes, stock is the way to go. I mean, manufacturers put hundreds of thousands of hours on these components. And as we were talking about before we started, while the interiors might not be what we like, the rest of the vehicle will generally make it to the end. That being said, what do you think is your biggest challenge for this year?
Honestly,
or you just don't have any?
No, I mean, we've been like all the teams, I'm sure. I am very, very, very organized. Mark is organized. I feel like we've been ready for months. We've done plenty of track testing with our new car. We're having no problems. I've used all the different modes to see what mode that we're going to prefer. After when we get done here, I'm going to be going out on a desolate road and working on the launch control and the slip rate and things like that for the drag strip. And I feel confident that we have a reliable car. And I do some instructing, and I've gotten a ton of track time this year. So during this whole last year. So
I think our biggest challenge is going to be probably wet.
Yeah. Yep. What tires are you guys running?
Yokohama Advent Apex.
Interesting. So why choose those? Because throughout the conversation, obviously the Sunday Cup cars are running their own sort of spec tire. Most others have been with the 4S's again. So why choose that?
We've had the 4S before, and it's just fine. But I wanted to try something that I felt I would give up a little tiny bit in the dry. So when we have, like, every year, we're all going to say, boy, when you drive a Camaro, Mustang, Corvette, you're like, sure hope it's dry. Sure hope it's dry.
Yeah.
Because the rain is the great equalizer.
Yeah.
And I'm like, let's just give up a little bit of dry and get something that should be pretty reasonable in the wet. And so, again, in the past, I'm comfortable in the wet, but there's only so much you can do with that torque and horse. And geez, Solomon, I mean, you've got a 760 plus horsepower car. So, the wet is just, if it rains, we're going to fall back. If it's dry, I do a little instructing for Porsche in Atlanta at their Porsche Experience Center. And when I'm not with a client, I use the simulators, and they are top of the line. And I've been doing a lot at Road Atlanta on the sim. And boy, the back straightaway, I'm really moving on that. Nice. So hoping that really helps us with the Camaro this year.
I'm sure it will. It sounds like you guys are doing a lot of great prep work. And I know there's a lot that goes into preparing, not just the car, the drivers getting that ready, but sponsors as well, and those who you're supporting. So do you have any you'd like to give a shout out to now, and anybody who's supporting you and anybody who you're supporting through the event this year?
We have a couple different sponsors. Amazed Construction is one of our main sponsors. Jon Bond Performance, also a sponsor for us. Mark Menegay, sales advisor at Carl Auto Group, is a sponsor. And are you doing yours?
Yep, my company is chipping in, Driven Real Estate.
Nice. Well, if you guys would like to shoot me a note afterwards with some of the hot links to that, we'll be happy to put that in the video. So those that are watching can check it out. What about any charities this year? Anybody whom you guys are supporting?
We're not doing any charities this year. We're the charity.
Fair enough. Brian, have you thought of anything else right now?
Yes, I have. Well,
Okay.
number one, you went with the Advance, so it's going to be dry all week. We're not going to get the first drop of rain.
Good.
Number
Thank
two,
you.
being seasoned veterans, what have you learned over the years on how to not just prep the car, but prep yourselves? How you're able to still sleep whenever you can get it, since sometimes that's a pretty rare commodity during the week. Just what have you guys done over the years to kind of make the experience a little more bearable?
Go ahead.
First, Mark.
Yeah, go ahead. Well,
it's this kind of synergy that we love seeing, to know you guys are on the same page.
Yep. First, we hate each other, so we lock ourselves in the car with each other for 24/7 for 8 days straight. Honestly, the transit drives are probably some of the highlights for us, because for some reason, him and I don't run out of things to talk about. Makes the miles go really quick. We also have our Iowa group, so we have walkie-talkies, and you obviously have talked to Scott Mattis, so you know what it's like talking to him.
Twice we've spoken to him.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah.
Now put him on a scale of times 10, and then you understand what he's like on a walkie-talkie.
There you go.
So it's hard to fall asleep with Scott, somewhere near you. We have our routines, and everything from packing the car to what we do for breakfast and lunch and stuff like that. And we figured out a lot our first year, and since then it's I don't want to say it's smooth sailing, but like when we had a transmission failure, we sort of just figured a way to get through it, and we had a transmission put in the same night and drove through the night to Michigan and made it to Gingerman for the next morning. So for some reason, we just figure ways to get stuff done and stay on track.
Mark is taking way too little credit. He had a transmission Ubered from Baltimore to Virginia.
Wow.
Only missed the afternoon session. Unbelievable.
What was your rating like after that?
You mean in the race?
No, in Uber.
His Uber rating.
Oh, geez, I don't even know, because we don't, in Iowa, you don't need to use Uber. I mean, we just got to have a car here.
Yeah.
But Mark just crushed it on that. But
nice.
And then for me, the first couple of years, I just thought, well, we got to hurry up and get to the hotel. We got to move. Let's just eat in the car, and it's fast and paced. And here's the thing, guys. If you get in at midnight or you get in at 1, what the hell's the difference? So stop and put some good quality food in your stomach. Stop and have a steak. I think you guys were joking. You love sushi in Kansas City or whatever.
Yep.
Whatever it is. So we try to stop and have a nice meal. Like, what's the difference? I mean, it's another 50 minutes. I mean, we stopped one year. We did teppanyaki for 2 hours. And got it really late, and it is what it is. But I switched to water only for the week. Yep. It just makes you feel better, and then make sure that you just have a little bit of protein before that first morning session. You don't want to be on the track or waiting to go and have that hungry feeling. So
yeah, to that point, that's a great point, and something that we haven't really heard brought up, the nutrition side of it, which is very, very important. I know I stay away from caffeine through the week because you don't want that crash that inevitably comes, and and you don't want to be dehydrated. And like you said, in the morning session, let's say we have another hallet where things are red flagged for hours, and you're sort of just milling around waiting. You're going to be hungry, and you're going to start fading at a time where you really don't need to. So it's a really good point. As we
got to trust your driver too. When you have those really late nights, I am not able to sleep if I'm not comfortable with who's driving and where they're at. We've had it, and I'm sure you guys have as well, where we're on the event and Mark's been behind the wheel and blasted a tank of gas out, no problem. And I'm like, all right, I'll take over. And he's like, no, I am zoned. Take a nap, go to sleep, and that's nice. So you've got to trust your partner. And in the minute my eyes get heavy or whatever, he has the right to say it's time to pull over. We're switching. It doesn't matter if you need to or not. So you've got to be safe.
That's exactly right.
Not had any problems.
That's exactly right. I mean, look, and you have to be honest with yourself too, because I know there was a transit that we did. What was it, South Carolina or Virginia? I think it was, Brian. And toward the end of that, we were heading to VIR, and I think we stopped maybe every 5 minutes to swap because we had stopped for a nice meal with friends, and then heading to VIR, we were bushed, we were done, and we had so much food in our stomach, we were just passing out anyhow.
It was like every 5 or 10 minutes, it was like, okay, your turn.
Yep, just to get it over to VIR.
And we pretty much did that from Greensboro all the way up 29 to Danville. It was that's how bad it was.
Yeah.
But Solomon, I could be driving a trophy truck in the Baja 1000, and Solomon could sleep like a baby.
This is true. I have very little regard.
That's the gift.
No, but Brian's also an excellent co-driver, one I've been with since 2012. So yeah, wouldn't have it any other way. So for this year, obviously, we don't have any returning vehicles that are champions this year. We have some returning champions, but not in the same vehicles. Who's your money on this year? Who are you looking out for?
Sleepers. Well, not sleepers, I guess. Obvious. Plaid.
PGR.
What's that?
PGR.
Yep. What were they, third last year?
I believe so. Yep.
And then the top two teams are not together anymore, so they seem to be, as long as their car's dialed in and don't have any mishaps, they seem to be a legitimate favorite. I would like to see, is Popes running Hellcat or not?
Yeah. Hellcat Charger.
He would be a top one. Obviously, Tom O'Gorman in a Porsche GT3 is going to be right up there. And then there's a rumor there's a Z06 going to be in the competition, so that car should perform very well also.
Nice.
I would love to see, Andy Hollis finally get on get in the first spot. I mean, I remember we were racing when he had his salvage title Civic. And I remember going, this is one of the most talented drivers I've ever seen. I mean, he's just amazing. And so honestly, I would love to see him pull one out.
I would.
I really would, but god dang, that car that he picks, I really question the reliability of that car.
Andy's wallet is his worst enemy. I agree. When he started off with the CRX, he was right up at the pointy end of the field.
He does better with that car. So
he does.
I kind of, after he had his first problem, and then the second one, I'm like, okay, the car's going to be gone. He's going to switch to something that's more reliable. But it's a great car. It's a beautiful car, and I know that he puts 1,000% in. So I'd like to see him win if possible.
I think that's a sentiment up and down the field, at least for those of us who have been here for some time. We're hoping, and I think after we did our first or second, and we were sort of talking about Andy, we see the post about him having to replace the engine now, that it wasn't just an alternator issue. So so hoping that all gets sorted out.
That was recent, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was only a week ago, week and a half ago. Yeah, something like that. So it's I mean, how hard can it be in a McLaren?
Yeah.
So.
The company, one of the companies that I instruct for, we do supercar supercar instructing, and they had tried a McLaren for one season. They're like, you can't. It's broken every day. It's all the time broken, and so it was pulled right from the fleet.
Yep, absolutely. Well, wrapping things up, Brian, do you have anything before we start wrapping up?
Yeah, the question that we've been asking most everybody already. What advice would you give to our large crop of lap puppies that are going to be joining us this year?
Go ahead, MJ.
Well, my first year doing it, I felt like you're like a fish out of water. Everybody can drive that shows up, and tuck your, what's the term I'm looking for? Your confidence, away. 50 other drivers that are better than you. But just listen to the lap dogs. Listen to people who have done it before. Nothing's ever on time, it feels like, ever. I'm real OCD, so I'm like, well, it said we're supposed to be here at 8:30, so what the hell? I don't even see these things are out yet. Well, that's just how one lap is. So take it easy. Make sure you feed yourself right. Try to get sleep when you can. I like it that we have a whole bunch of new people, but I do expect the days to be slower at the track because they don't know. One thing that I liked in the past that we haven't had in the last couple of years is I can't remember his name, but he used to walk through the pits and call out the next car group's numbers on a horn. Yeah. That was super helpful. Instead of having a million cars go get in line and then the jumbling, he was just like, car number, blah, 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 blah. Time to come up. That was great. It'd be nice if we did that again. Mm-hmm. But yeah, just listen to the lap dogs, and this is the stupidest, most fun, craziest, greatest thing you could ever do, honestly.
We do have a lap puppy coming with us this year. Mikey Johnson and Brian Johnson will be joining us. They were scheduled last year, and Brian had something come up, and they couldn't make it last year, so they're actually going to be doing it this year with us.
Nice.
Shelby GT 350. Mm-hmm. We've given him as much advice as we can, and just everything from like the nutrition part of it to what to expect when you get there for the events, what it's going to be, because that's the biggest thing. Like when I started 3 years ago with it was 3 years ago with MJ. Mm-hmm. But the anxiety or the anticipation was like, what's this going to be like, So once you get there and you get, day 2, day 3, you sort of get a feel for it, and just trying to give the Iowa lap puppy team a little bit of advice, and, so it's not such a shock to the system, and the 700-mile transits and stuff like that, how to manage those and get through the week. Mm-hmm. So just that type of stuff with our newbies, I should say.
Fantastic.
And don't overpack.
Yes.
I think a lot of new people overpack.
Well, sure. I mean, it's particularly if you haven't done something like this before, you're not fully aware of all the infrastructure that's gotten better every year around the country. When I first did it, you really had to be self-contained. Nowadays, if you forget something, there's a Target, Walmart, Sam's Club, Costco, you name it, someplace. Yeah, and that you can grab something. So it's nowhere near as hard as it used to be. And Brock always brings this point up, and it's a very valid one. You used to be able to know what exit you were getting off of by what's around there, and now they're all the same. Every exit you take has the same gas stations, same chains. So you really don't have to overpack. You can pretty much find whatever you need anywhere you go these days. And even around racetracks now, I mean, it's far more populated around than it ever used to be. So yeah, even once you get there, there's still
except for Hallett.
No,
yeah. Except for Hallett is right. Yeah.
Yep, and Mid-America still. So I don't think there's much around there still, except for as we've mentioned, the Children of the Corn School.
That's in that scary hotel with the little diner in it.
Yes, lovely people though. Anyway, yeah. Well, Amanda worked the kitchen there for a little while.
Yes, she did.
Yep. She opted. It was I forget what year it was, but
2012.
They had just sold it, and the new owners had no idea what was coming through town, and all of a sudden the pack of one lap descends on this little tiny diner, and they were at best ill prepared. and they were so overwhelmed. Amanda and Bunch just sort of got up and ran behind the counter and just started pouring coffee and taking orders, and everybody's tipping left and right. They have no idea what happened. The swarm of people came in, ate everything, and left a pile of cash on the counter. They were just, what? So yeah, it's a very interesting experience.
Was that are you talking about what, the RPM track south of Omaha in Iowa?
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
We were just, we did that track out last week for track day and brought 10 cars with us.
Nice. So next time you go to the diner, just say, oh no, I'm here for the one lap discount. Just walk behind the counter, do everything yourself, and leave a pile of money on it. You'll be fine.
Yep. That's awesome.
Well, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure chatting with you. We're definitely going to look forward to catching up with you during the week. Thanks for making the time today. And yeah, we'll be sure, if you send over your sponsors, we'll be sure to get them in the link down below. But yeah, so what is your team name, by the way, before we sign off?
It's Team Saleen, SAY, and then LEAN.
Saleen. I see. How does that work with the Camaro?
We would like to be leaner.
So it'll be Team Duct Tape.
And you shouldn't have bought a Camaro then.
There you go.
Yeah.
Right. Well, gentlemen, thanks so much. We'll catch you on the road for the 2023 Tire Rack One Lap of America, presented by Gracis Motorsport Magazine. I'm Solomon. That's Brian. And these are the two Marks. One's Mark John, the other's Mark itself. So thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you on the road.
Thanks, guys.